Okay, so in this video, we're looking at the fills and structure for Lime Tree Bay. So we have a 2-bar count off, and then we come in with our brushes pattern that we've looked at in the groove video. And the dynamic is mezzo forte. We play that for 8 bars, and then we get to letter A. So once we get to A, the 3rd bar of A, we have some markings out the stave. The easiest way to play these is to keep the left hand and the left foot pattern going, and play those markings out the stave on the right hand. You can play them mostly on the snare drum. Maybe you can start to introduce some toms, maybe a cymbal, okay? Whatever you're comfortable with. So it's quite a simple rhythm. It's just 1 and, 2, 3, 1, 2 and. So I'll play you those 2 bars with the marking out the stave, just all on the snare drum. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's as easy as that. And then once you're comfortable, you can start moving it around the drums, maybe with the cymbal for the longer notes. And then that repeats just before B. We get to letter B, our rhythm is the same, and the markings out the stave are the same again. But then on the 8th bar of B, we have a little marking that says to sticks. You have to continue playing and transition from brushes to sticks. You can see from my video, I have this little table next to me. So I set my brushes over here, grab my sticks. What you could do is you could put these on the bass drum, right on top of the bass drum there. Or if you have a stick bag, you could drop them in your stick bag. I found one of the easiest ways is to have my sticks ready on the floor tom. Again, you could have these ready on the bass drum or in your stick bag, whatever's easiest. You want to make it easy for yourself to transition from brushes to sticks. Another thing I've found is it's much easier for me to drop 1, pick up my right stick. I can start to play that open hi-hat pattern, and then under that, my left hand's not playing anything. So I can put my brush away and pick up my stick. So I'll demonstrate that. I'll play 2 bars before we change to sticks, just to show you how you can transition, and you want it to sound nice and easy. You don't want your sticks to be clicking. You don't want to be dropping stuff. You want to show that you're in control. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to have to practice that over and over to find what's comfortable for you. So we play that hi-hat pattern for 6 bars, and then we have some hits on the 7th bar. A flam on 1, crash and snare on the and of 1, and then that's tied over, and then a snare on 4, crash, snare and kick drum on the and of 4, and then we have fill. We have a bar to play a fill. So you should have another page that says fills for Lime Tree Bay with 4 fills written on there. This is where I played fill number 1. So let's take a look at that fill now. We have a quaver rest on beat 1, and then we have a drag, which starts a triplet on beat 2, all in a snare drum, and then a triplet on beat 3, but the first 2 beats of the triplet are on the tom, and then we go back to the snare for the 3rd of the triplet, and a flam on beat 4. What I found with this one is, if we start the drag on the right hand, so that our first beat of the triplet is on the left hand, if we play alternate sticking, it gets us around the kit really easy. Drag, left, right, left on the snare, that's our triplet, and then right, left on the tom, right on the snare, and flam. There's different stickings you can try. I've just found that one to be the easiest. So here's what that fill sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. So then over the page, we go to letter C. We've looked at this pattern already. That's where we move to the right cymbal. It's like our swing pattern here. And it says comp and fill as required, which means you're kind of free to start playing little embellishments if you want. Traditionally, this style of music, those happen between the kick and the snare. They would be quite quiet here. Like our main driving force is this right cymbal and the hi-hat. That's what cuts through and pushes the music forward. Bar 3 of C, for example. 1, 2, and. That would be a perfect thing to play on the snare drum or the kick. And bar 4 is a good place to play a fill. So I played our fill number 2. So let's take a look at that. So this one starts on the kick on beat 1, and then we have a rest on the 2nd beat of that triplet, and then our snares on 3, beat 2, triplet all on the snare, beat 3, triplet on the tom, beat 4, a single hit on the floor tom. The easiest sticking that I've found for this fill is we play our kick, and then we start on the right hand, so our 2nd triplet then starts on the left hand. Our right hand's free to move up to the tom. On the tom, I play right, left, left, and then my right hand is free to move down to hit the floor tom. So I'll play that fill. You can see from the overhead what that looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see my hands are free to move around. The point of using different stick-ins is so that you're not twisting yourself over, right? You want to be as open and comfortable as possible. So the right, left, left up there enables my right hand to move down and play beat 4. So back to the chart. 2 bars before letter D, we have the same hits as before. 1, 2, and. 1, 2, and. So just bring them out. Letter D, we mentioned in the groove video that we bring in our kick and snare. Once again though, remember that that should be much lower dynamic, and your driving force should still be the ride cymbal and the hi-hat. The 4th bar of D is a good place to play a fill. I played fill number 3, so let's take a look at that one now. So it starts with 2 triplets. Our kick plays beat 1, and then we have and and our second triplet's all on the tom, 2 and then we have a roll on the snare for beats 3 and 4. Think about your sticking again for this one. So if we play kick, right, left, that means our right hand can go up to the tom. Again, you might want to play right, left, left, so that you can get your right hand down to start the buzz roll, okay? So here's what that one looks like with the right, left, left sticking on the tom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and from that roll, we go straight back into our rhythm. We have some markings out the stave on the 7th bar of D, and this rhythm is just like the rhythm at the bottom of the first page. So because they're tied over, they're longer notes, the and of 1 and the and of 4. Good place to play a crash cymbal because the crash cymbal naturally rings out as well. And then that leads into a bar that says fill. This was where I played fill number 4, so let's take a look at that one now. So we have 2 triplets, all on the snare, 1 and 2 and then a crotchet triplet going around the toms with flams. 1, 2, 3. So here's what that one sounds like. So looking back at the chart, we get to bar 49, it says time. So that's mostly our ride and hi-hat that's pushing the time. Bar 50, we have set up figures. So what this means is those markings out the stave on the next 2 bars, we want to set them up. That's playing something that leads into it so that the other musicians know that hits are coming because they hear a drum fill and they're like, okay, here we go. And they know what to play. So a good way to set them up could be a triplet on beat 4. You say a hit on 1 and then start playing those on the and of 1. So here's an example. I'll start from bar 49. I'll play time through 49 and 50 with a small fill on beat 4. I'll play a triplet and then I'll hit on 1 and then start those markings at the stave on the and of 1. 1, 2, 4. And because you're setting these figures up, you can play them a little bit more exaggerated. So you don't have to keep time as much throughout like we did earlier. Stick with that rhythm, really accent that rhythm, and then you can fill in between. So that same thing repeats twice. We have figures again on bar 55. So set them up again. You could try a different fill, you could do the same thing. And then we get to letter E, and the dynamic changes to 40. This is the first dynamic change we've had in the whole piece. So you want to make sure that it's an obvious change you're making here, okay? And it says build. So over the next 6 bars, we're going to be building in 2 ways. In dynamics, we're going to build up the volume, and we're going to build up our rhythm. So we're going to make our rhythm a little bit more interesting. So here's an example of how I would build up playing from E. 1, 2, 3. And that bar we just got to there, we hit on 3, and then we stop on 4. I grab the cymbal to mute it, just to have a bigger impact. You don't have to do that. And then the next bar we're up to fortissimo, so high dynamic volume here. Rest on 1, beat 2 lands on the kick, but we have 2 tom beats just before that, okay? So they're not as loud as the kick, a little bit quieter. So the ride, kick and snare, 3 and rest on 4, we hit on 1, and that's only for the value of a quaver, so that's short. And then we hit the and of 2. 1, 2, and that's tied over, and it's got written fill. So this is where you just play something around the kit, do some rim shots, play some toms. It lasts for roughly 2 bars. Okay, so we start that fill in the end of 2 and we end about beat 2 or 3 2 bars later. You don't have to keep counting, but that's just a rough guide, okay? Because you want to end at the same time as all the other music. So those 2 bars to end, and I'll just play some sort of fill at the end. Gonna sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's our whole piece. So make sure to really bring the dynamic up at the ending when we get to forte and when we get to fortissimo, okay? And when it says fill at the end, just go crazy with it and have a bit of fun, okay? So go practice that and we'll see you in the next one.